Hey everyone, and welcome to the last lab, Lab 9, assessing burn scars with satellite imagery. In this lab, we'll be using ArcGIS Pro. ArcGIS is part of the Arc products, such as ArcMap that we used earlier, but ArcGIS Pro is very online and web compatible. So ArcGIS is really the newest and most cutting edge in mapping technology. So be sure to pay attention to this lab because it's going to teach you some Arc Pro basics. And Arc Pro is a great skill if you want to get into anything geography or spatial related. It's kind of going to be your bread and butter in the future. So pay attention and learn some fundamentals of ArcGIS Pro. And I will be using Udesc for this lab, but you are welcome to download Arc Pro. We do have the license for it. It is only compatible with Windows. So if you have a Mac, you'll be working in Udesc. But if not, and you do want to download it, you can reach out to Lauren and follow the instructions in the Lab 9 document. So to start this lab, it is the same as always, especially if we're working in Udesc. You come up to the UStore icon, navigate down to GeoPlanning class, find classes, our class, and then your name, and we're going to create a Lab 9 folder. This time we do not need a data folder. We will be creating a different folder in the Lab 9 document later, but make sure that pathway is correct. With the folder created, we want to go ahead and open Arc Pro so we can come to the search bar, and if you type in Arc, mine auto-completed, but feel free to type out however much you need to load the program, and it can take a second. It is Udesc, as I'm sure you're getting familiar. Things take a little bit longer to load because of these server connections you're going through. Once Arc opens, you immediately want to come up to the right-hand side and sign in. You're going to sign in with the same credentials you used for ArcGIS Online from Lab 6. So that's your username _app21 and then whatever password you used. So once you're signed in, your name will appear over here, and then we want to come over to map under new blank templates, and we want to name this Montana Fires, and then we want to click on this browse folder icon to save it within our Lab 9 folder. So this pathway is really important to get correct. This file management might be the trickiest part of the lab. And then an important thing to note, when you select folder 9 or Lab 9 folder, make sure you only select it here. Don't go any further, and then press OK. And then make sure that pathway is correct before you press OK. And also make sure you have create a new folder for this project checked. And then you can press OK. Once your map loads, Arc will load a base map for you like this, and at this point we want to navigate back to Udesc and download this Lab 9 zip. Once that's downloaded, go to your file manager and find it in your downloads, and we want to extract this, and we'll just extract it right back to the downloads here. And once that's finished extracting, we want to go ahead and copy this entire folder and then paste it into our Lab 9 folder we created. And now you'll notice this Montana Fires folder is here. So we want to actually paste this into the Montana Fire folders. And it'll take a little bit of time to do this. Once that fully copies over, we're going to navigate back to Arc Pro and come over to the View tab and click on Catalog pane, and it'll open the catalog on the right side if it did not have it open already. And then we want to come down to Folders and Expand, and we'll see Montana Fires. Then we want to expand it again, and you'll see your Lab 9 folder. If you don't, you can right click and refresh, and we want to expand this folder and then expand raster data and Montana Fires geodatabase as well. and that one might take a little while to expand. In this lab, we'll be using the Glacier National Park file and these G 2014 and 2015 TIFFs. The 2014 these are both Landsat 8 images, and the 2014 is what the area looked like before the two fires, and 2015 is after. And so to add these to your document, you want to click and hold and drag them over. And it might take a little bit of time to add each one, but you can do that for all three. So this is how you want your order set up with Glacier National Park on top, and then 2014 and then 2015. It's the same as with NV and the other programs. If you click and hold, the black line will show you where you're going to drag them. So if you need to rearrange them after you've added them, you can do so in that way. But once they're in that order, go ahead and click on this symbol underneath Glacier National Park to modify the symbology. And when we click on that, it'll appear over here in the same pane as our catalog window, and we just want this black outline for the Glacier National Park. Next, we want to enhance the imagery. So go ahead and come over to this G2014 TIFF and right click and click on zoom to layer. And you can see that it is pretty dark. To increase the appearance, we want to come over to appearance in the raster layer. You have to make sure that this is actually selected with this blue highlighted bar around it for these options to appear. And then over in brightness, which looks like the little sun, we want to make that 20. And you'll notice it updates as soon as I go out of the number tab. So there's no place to save or anything like that. It'll just update in real time. And you want to make the contrast, which is right below the brightness, 25. And then our gamma is already at 1, so we'll leave it there. Once that's changed, you should notice a difference, and we actually want to uncheck this layer to make similar changes to the 2015 TIFF. And so you'll notice that while I still have this layer selected, I still have these options. So I want to make sure to come down and select this 2015 layer, and you'll notice they change. It's important that you don't make changes to the 2014 layer again. This brightness is going to be 10, and our contrast will be 15, and the gamma will stay at 1, and you'll notice its appearance is a little bit brighter and easier to see. And moving on to part 3, be sure to refer to the lab document here. The first paragraph underneath part 3 gives details about exactly where the fires are. And so similar to last week, we want to change the two color composites to better highlight the fires or to better highlight the burn scars more correctly. So to do this, because you can tell it's a little cloudy right now, so we want to change the combination. So in the G2015 TIFF, you want to make sure that that is selected, and then appearance is selected again. And this section here between these two lines is called rendering, and we want to click on band combination and then click color infrared. It'll update our map, and you can tell that it's very different. Our vegetation has appeared in red, and our burn scars now look dark brown, or both fire areas now appear dark brown, and it's easier to see. The one fire up by Reynolds Creek, but the Thompson fire down here is still somewhat obscured by smoke. So from here, you can see the Reynolds burn fire area pretty well, but this Thompson area down here is still covered by smoke. So again, make sure that this 2015 is selected, and we want to come back up and change the band combination again to land/water interface. And so this band combination is meant to differentiate between land and water, but for our purposes, it also penetrates the smoke. So you can see this area in the Thompson very well now. But yet up here in the Reynolds, it's still a little bit blurry. So we actually want to change this combination one more time. One more time, we're going to change this band combination to vegetation analysis. And feel free to read up a little bit more on the lab document about these exact band combinations, blends of bands. And so you'll notice that we can see them both decently well, but it doesn't have as much haze penetration down here as we'd like. So we are actually going to do a custom band combination to hopefully get a better view. So to create our own custom band combination, we want to still make sure that this G2015 is selected and then come down to band combination, and at the bottom you'll see custom. Now we click on that. In the red color gun, we want shortwave infrared 2. For green, we want near infrared, and then for blue, we just want blue. And then we want to call this burn scar analysis, and then go ahead and click add, and you'll notice it will change the band combination. So now we have saved that band combination we just created, and we want to apply it to this G2014 TIFF. So make sure that that is selected, and you can go ahead and turn it on. And then in band combination, come down and you'll see our burn scar analysis that we just created, and you want to go ahead and apply it to that. And once it loads, you'll be able to see that the picture is a little bit different because it was taken a year apart. But if you toggle this on and off, you'll be able to see the burn scars from the changes that the burn scars cause to the landscape. And here's a great point to save, so just come up to project and click save. From here, we want to digitize the fires. So to do that, we're going to come up to view and catalog pane. And then over in the databases section, you want to click to expand this, and you'll see Montana Fires GDB geodatabase. So we're going to right click that and then come down to new and then feature class. And it might take a second for the window to open, and then we want to name this fires in the name, and we don't want to touch anything else. You might have to click out of it for these to open to be pressable, and we are going to click finish. And it might take a second here to create the class. Once that file is created, it will be stored under the databases in the catalog. And if you expand the Montana Fires, you'll see fires. So let's select this and then click and drag it over to the contents pane, and we want to make sure it is on top, and it might take a second to add the data here. So now fires is in our contents, but it doesn't appear on the map because it doesn't have any features. But so once that is in the contents, we want to change the symbology. So you want to click on this symbol underneath it, like we did with the Glacier National Park, and we want to come over to properties. And here under color, we want to make this, on the drop down here, we want no color. And the outline color, we want to be fire red. So that is this third column and row color here, fire red. And we want this to be 2 points. So you can type it in or click up, and then you want to click apply. And then we can close the symbology. Now we want to zoom in to the Reynolds Creek fire. So go ahead and unselect the 2014 so you can see it a little bit better, and it is this upper file here. So I am going to zoom into that and then pan over like so and get it centered on the map. I might even zoom in one more time, just like that. Now we want to digitize our fires layer. So to do that, we're going to come up with it selected. We're going to come up to edit and then click on create, and that will appear in the right pane. So in the create features layer, we want to click fires, and then it will kind of load our feature or our crosshair selection feature. So once this crosshair is up, you will be ready to add vertices to make a polygon. So to do so, you want to zoom in pretty close. Try to be as accurate as you can and add as many vertices around the fire area as possible. That will yield the best results. And so each time you click, it'll add a point along the polygon, and then to finish it, you want to double click. So I'm going to come back when I have mine completed. And so to close my vertices, I'm going to add my last point and double click, and then it will highlight, and blue simply means that it is all selected, but your shape should more or less look like this. And you're welcome to go in any way, clockwise or counterclockwise. Just be careful you don't double click and close it early. This can be pretty tedious to do. You can also edit your vertices, or if you select it all and delete, that will work for you as well. From here, you want to click Save in the Manage Edits folder, and it'll say Save All Edits, and we want to click Yes. And then we want to zoom out and navigate to the Thompson fire. So one thing, before you click out of the actual polygon crosshairs, you might have to zoom way out, and then wherever that cursor is, it will zoom in on that location. So get underneath the fire, roughly underneath the image, to where you can zoom in and center the image. Again, it can be a little annoying to do, especially trying to make it so that menu doesn't get in the way of where you want to click. But once you have it zoomed in accurately enough, you want to go ahead and do the exact same process. So zoom in as close as you need to get to outline this fire area here, and I'll come back when my points are done. Once that is done, we want to go back to edit and click save, and then click save all edits, and then you can close create features. So we just created the feature for fires, but they don't have any attributes, so they still want to appear on the map. So to add attributes, we want to come up to fires and right click, and then open attribute tables, and you'll see the two polygons we drew down here. And the last fire, the Thompson fire we just digitized, is still selected. So we want to clear this, and it will just turn orange. With that cleared, we want to come over to add, and we are going to add two fields. One is going to be called name, and the other is going to be called acreage. So go ahead and type it into field name, and then you can double click on the data type, and a drop down menu will appear. And for the name, we want that to be text. And then if you scroll down, there should be an option to say click here to add new field, and you want to make this one acreage, and we want this data type to be float. And so after that is done, up here you should have the save feature. Go ahead and click save, and that will add both of the new fields. From here we can close this one that says fields fires, and back in the attribute table you will notice the name and acreage are now there, but they are empty. So for the first polygon we drew, we want to name this one Reynolds Creek and press enter, and the next one will be called Thompson and press enter. Now you want to come over to acreage, select, and right click and navigate to calculate field. And so this is already calculated in square meters, but we need it to be acres, so we are going to change that. So you want to make sure your calculate field box looks like this with fires and acreage, And then underneath acreage, we want to change the expression. So we want to double click shape area to insert it. And then I like to just click and use um, these expressions here rather than type them in, just because I think it's a little bit easier. And then we are going to divide the shape area, which is in square meters, into acres. So we're going to divide this by 40.46 or 40.46 point, and then go ahead and click run. After it's done running, you'll notice the acreage has appeared down here in our attribute table. So according to the lab document, the numbers you are looking for the Reynolds Creek is about 5,000, and the Thompson Fire is about 15,000. So I was fairly off on my Thompson. I also cut mine pretty close and tight, and I was about 500 off on the Reynolds Creek. So yours should be pretty close to that. You probably want to try to do a little bit better than I did on the Thompson one. But if you're not too far off, it's all right. And so after that, you can go ahead and close out the attribute table and close the field calculator just by hitting back. And then you want to click save here in the edits. Yes, to save all edits. And then after that, you can come up here and click save to save the entire project. So you want to make sure that your 2015 TIFF, your Glacier National Park, and your fires in the contents are all checked. And now we want to change the symbology so the fires in Glacier National Park boundary outline stand out a little bit better. So to do so, click on the symbol beneath them, and you can change the color of the outline, the thickness of the outline, and feel free to do the same for Glacier National Park. And within the fires, if you come over to this layer stack under properties, you can fill different things like a hatched fill, gradient fill, and you can play around with that so that your boundary area stands out a little bit better. Once you're happy with how the fire features and the national park outline look, if you want, you can change the base map by selecting map and coming down to base map, and you can play around with whatever one you think looks best. So now we're going to actually create the map. So to do that, we're going to come over to insert and then new layout, and go on down, click on the bottom of new layout so it brings up the drop down, and in this first section, NC portrait, we want this letter. It'll load in a new window. In your layout tab, you want to come up to insert and then map frame, and on the bottom you want default extent, and then these crosshairs will appear, and you want to click and drag to a reasonable size. Again, you can edit it later, and then when it first appears, your map will look like that. Well, it looks like this, our data is there. It is just extremely zoomed out. If your map frame isn't already opened, expand the menu, and then if your map again isn't already open, expand that to fires, and we're going to select and right click and zoom to layer, and there we are. It is zoomed in on our fire area. So now we want to do a similar process but on a smaller scale. So within layout and insert, we're going to come down to map frame and click on default extent, and we're going to draw a smaller box within the map in the bottom left hand corner. Nothing too big, but just something that looks like that. So with this second smaller map selected, we can call this the insert map or second frame. We are going to come up to this extent indicator and click on map frame. And so what that does is it will allow for this one to be more zoomed out to at least show the Glacier National Park boundary extent. And then same deal here, we want to make sure that our menus are all expanded or at least enough to see the file feature layer names. And then with Glacier National Park selected, we want to click, right click, and zoom to layer. And this bottom map will show us the extent of the national park. So now we're going to add a title, citation, north arrow, scale bar, and the legend will be optional, but if you think it'll make the map look better, feel free to do so. To add text, you want to come up and click on this rectangle, and it will allow you to draw a text box. So I need to zoom out so I can better position that. And then once you draw your text box, if you click on it and double click, it'll allow you to edit the text. I usually just like to type over here, and I'm going to call this Glacier National Park Burn Scars. And then that will update. And if I want to change the size, you come over to text symbol and appearance. In the other text box, try to match the same style as your title, and you want to include your name, the date, and the source, which is S3 and the USGS. And then after that looks good, you want to go ahead and add a north arrow and try to keep the layout in mind. Yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine, but definitely make sure it's readable and makes sense. And I'm going to also add a scale bar, and we can use just a simple one here. And I like to keep mine at an easy to read distance. There's no set distance you need for this one, so something even for me always works. And that is a general guide of what your map should look like, but feel free to make it how you like. The other thing to note is to make sure that this map is selected when you insert the scale bar. If you have the other one selected, the scale bar is different, so it might come up at a lot larger scale. But once you're ready to export, come up to the Share tab and then click on Layout. And from here, you want to save it as a PDF. And you want to make sure that it is in your Lab 9 folder. So navigate to the usual pathway and save it there. And you can save it as your last name, Lab 9. And then you can click Save. From here, all you need to do is press Export, and it will give you a notification when your map has been successfully exported. I hope everyone has gotten something out of this class, or it has been interesting to them in any way. It's been nice working with everybody, and let myself or Professor Anderson know if you have any questions about this lab or anything final project related.